The mysterious stranger. The world was about to change, and no one saw it coming. It was a normal day in New York City, until the ground shook violently. Buildings trembled, windows cracked, and a massive energy pulse erupted from the heart of the city. People screamed, running for their lives as the world seemed to explode in chaos. At first, no one knew what had happened. Then the rumor spread like wildfire. Superman, the Man of Steel, was seen in the heart of the blast zone. His eyes were glowing red. He hovered over the wreckage, untouched by the destruction around him. But instead of helping, he looked distant, cold, unfeeling. It was the first sign that something was terribly wrong. Superman, the protector of Earth, wasn't just missing, he was a threat. As the Avengers scrambled to respond, Captain America stood firm, his face filled with determination. "This doesn't make sense," he muttered. "Superman would never do this." Iron Man, hovering in his suit, quickly ran a scan of the area. His voice crackled through the comms. "I'm not picking up any traces of kryptonite or anything else that could have been used against him. It's like he's gone rogue." Thor, gripping Mjolnir tightly, scanned the skies. No one betrays the Earth like this. Not without a reason. But the truth was, no one had answers. Superman was a hero, a beacon of hope for Earth. His history was a tale of bravery, sacrifice, and endless loyalty. The Avengers had trusted him implicitly, believing he was one of the greatest allies they could ever have. And yet, here they were, facing the unthinkable. What the hell happened to him? Iron Man muttered. His voice was full of disbelief, tinged with frustration. He'd worked with Superman before, even teamed up with him on several occasions. But now, standing in the aftermath of the explosion, he had a gut feeling that things weren't what they seemed. Suddenly, a new report came in. A team of superheroes, led by Black Widow, had found a strange device at the center of the blast. It was Kryptonian in origin, pulsing with dark energy. Something about it was off. "Looks like Superman was here. All right." Black Widow's voice came through the comms. But he wasn't here to save anyone. He was here to hide something. The Avengers were stunned. What was Superman doing in New York? And why had he been so different? Captain America's jaw tightened. He knew there was something they weren't seeing, something they were missing. But whatever it was big. Too big for them to handle alone. They needed answers. They needed to find Superman before he could do any more damage. But finding him wouldn't be easy. As the Avengers gathered to discuss their next steps, a message came through. It was from Superman himself. "I never wanted to hurt anyone," the message said, his voice eerily calm. "But sometimes, to save the world, we must make sacrifices. You've all been part of the problem, and now you'll understand why. Stay out of my way, or you'll regret it." The words hit hard. Superman wasn't just missing. He had made a choice that would lead to war. A war the Avengers were not prepared for. Captain America turned to the team, his voice steady but filled with urgency. "We're going after him. Whatever's happening, we need to stop it before it's too late." Iron Man's voice came through. "And if he's really gone rogue?" "We do what we have to do," Captain America said, his voice unshakable. "We bring him back, even if it means facing him as an enemy." But deep inside, Steve Rogers couldn't shake the feeling that they had already made one big mistake. They had trusted Superman too much. And now, it might cost them everything. The hidden truth. The Avengers couldn't breathe. They were suffocating under the weight of the betrayal. Superman, Kal-El, wasn't just missing. He had turned. The message he'd sent had left a chilling mark on all of them, each word burning into their minds. "Stay out of my way, or you'll regret it." The question was no longer why Superman was doing this. It was how they could stop him. "We've got to act fast," Iron Man said, his voice crackling through the comms as his suit whirred to life. "We can't just sit here and wait for him to make the next move. Here's a ticking time bomb." Captain America clenched his fists. "We need to find out who or what turned him. There's got to be more to this. Superman would never willingly do this. Something's controlling him, manipulating him." Thor's eyes narrowed, and he gripped Mjolnir tighter. A dark force, perhaps? One that has turned even the mightiest of beings against their own world. As the Avengers tried to piece things together, they received disturbing reports. Strange activity had been spotted across the globe. Power grids were hacked. Military installations had been compromised. Communications disrupted. And all signs pointed back to Superman. "We're not just fighting an enemy." Black Widow's voice came over the comms. "We're fighting a ghost. His every move is calculated. He's leaving no trace. Whoever's behind this has made sure there's nothing to follow." Tony Stark's face appeared on the holographic screen. "You're right. This doesn't feel like Superman. This is someone using him, or something controlling him from the shadows." Captain America nodded. "We need to find out where he's been. His last known location was in Metropolis, but we can't get close to him without exposing ourselves. If he's as powerful as we think, we'll never be able to outfight him." But just as the team began to strategize, something unprecedented happened. The entire city of Metropolis went dark. Streets flooded with chaos. Buildings trembled. And in the sky above, Superman descended. The Man of Steel was back. His face was unreadable, cold, distant. His red eyes burned with intensity as he hovered above the Avengers, daring them to make a move. "I gave you a chance." His voice boomed, carrying a tone of finality. "Now it's over." A deep shiver ran down Captain America's spine. The feeling of fear wasn't something he often had, but seeing Superman in this state, it was terrifying. Superman's voice echoed, but this time, it wasn't just words. The air vibrated with power. "You're too late. The world I'm creating doesn't need your kind of justice. You failed. And now, I'll destroy everything you've built." Without another word, Superman unleashed a devastating energy pulse that cracked the ground beneath them, sending shockwaves through the city. Buildings crumbled. Cars were tossed into the air. The Avengers were thrown back, struggling to regain their footing. The battle was on. Thor swung Mjolnir with the force of a god, but Superman dodged effortlessly, his movements almost predatory. "Stay focused." Captain America shouted, rallying the Avengers. Iron Man fired his repulsors, blasting Superman, but each hit seemed to do nothing. He wasn't even flinching. "We're outmatched." Tony yelled, barely dodging a punch from Superman that sent him crashing into a nearby building. The Avengers realized just how out of their depth they were. Their strongest member had turned on them, and they had no idea how to stop him. Meanwhile, from the shadows, a voice echoed through the chaos. A voice they hadn't heard before. "This is only the beginning." It wasn't Superman speaking. It was someone else. The Avengers froze. They weren't just fighting Superman anymore. They were fighting whoever or whatever had orchestrated this entire mess. And it was only just beginning. The true mastermind. The sky was ablaze with sparks and chaos as Superman tore through the streets of Metropolis, leaving destruction in his wake. His once unshakable sense of justice had been replaced with a cold, unfeeling drive for something darker. The Avengers had no time to process the enormity of the situation. They were fighting for their lives. Tony Stark's suit was battered. His energy reserves were nearly depleted. "I've got a plan, but it's a long shot," he said through gritted teeth, struggling to stay on his feet as Superman closed in. "We can't go head-to-head with him like this. We need to hit him where it counts, strategically, not just punch him harder." Captain America, his shield in hand, surveyed the battlefield. Superman moved like a blur. Too fast, too powerful. "What do you have in mind, Tony?" "I'll need some time to recalibrate the suit. There's a neural inhibitor we can deploy that might slow him down. If we can break his connection to whoever's controlling him, maybe we can get through to him." Thor's eyes flared with determination. "Time is something we do not have. He will destroy everything in his path." With Superman hovering just above them, the Avengers barely had time to react before he launched another brutal attack, sending shockwaves that sent buildings tumbling and cracked the earth beneath their feet. The team was scattered, but Captain America stood firm, his voice loud in the chaos. "We can't fight him directly. We need to find out who's pulling the strings first." It was then that Black Widow's voice crackled through the comms. "I think we've got our answer." The team regrouped quickly, using the brief moment of Superman's pause to gather intel. "What do you mean, Natasha?" Captain America asked, his voice urgent. "Whoever's behind this, they are not human, and they've been watching Superman for years." A cold silence fell over the team. This wasn't just a rogue hero. This was something far worse. "We need to get to the source. Now." Tony said, pulling up a holographic display of Metropolis's grid. I'm rerouting all the power to this location. It's a black site, a secret facility. I didn't know it existed until now, but I'm tracing the signals. Superman must have been manipulated through here. It was a hidden facility, one that Superman had been unwittingly protecting. But now, it seemed to be the epicenter of his fall from grace. We need to destroy that facility, Iron Man said, locking his targeting systems onto the location. But just as he began to engage his thrusters, Superman reappeared, more furious than before. You should have stayed out of this. Superman's voice echoed across the city like a storm. His eyes burned brighter, and he shot a blast of heat vision directly at the Avengers. The air crackled with tension. They dodged, but the force of the blast left a massive crater in the ground. We don't have much time. Captain America shouted. Get to the facility, now. But as they raced towards the heart of the city, they realized something worse. They were being followed. Superman wasn't just attacking, he was hunting them. Suddenly, the truth hit them all like a freight train. Superman hadn't just been manipulated. He was being controlled by a higher power, someone with far more knowledge of his Kryptonian physiology. The voice they had heard earlier wasn't just an ally of Superman. It was the mastermind behind this entire catastrophe. Enough of this. Captain America shouted, stopping in his tracks. We need answers. Who the hell is behind this? The ground shook once again as Superman landed in front of them, his expression filled with rage. I'll show you. And then, through the air, a figure descended, cloaked in darkness, but unmistakable. It was Lex Luthor. But this wasn't the Luthor they knew. This man was different, more dangerous. His eyes were burning with a cold, calculating fire. He had been pulling the strings all along. You should have listened, Luthor said, his voice dripping with venom. Superman was always my pawn. I just needed the right moment to take control. And now, Earth will bow to me. The Avengers stood in shock. Superman was never truly their ally. He had been a weapon, a tool for Luthor's twisted designs. How could you? Iron Man snarled, charging at Luthor, but his movements were halted by a pulse of energy. Luthor laughed, a dark, twisted sound. You think you can stop me? With my control over Superman, you've already lost. But there was one thing Luthor hadn't counted on. Superman, though controlled, was still Kal-El, the Man of Steel. And even under Luthor's influence, his willpower wasn't completely gone. A flicker of recognition appeared in Superman's eyes, his fist tightening as he struggled against Luthor's grip. For the first time since the chaos had begun, a crack in his cold demeanor appeared. He wasn't lost entirely. It was a glimmer of hope, one that the Avengers had been desperately searching for. The battle for Kal-El. Superman stood between the Avengers and the one man they'd hoped to avoid, Lex Luthor. The air was thick with tension as Luthor's laugh echoed through the ruins of Metropolis. He had done the unthinkable, taken control of the Man of Steel and turned him into the very weapon the Avengers feared. You're too late, Avengers, Luthor sneered, his eyes cold with triumph. This world will fall, and I will rebuild it in my image. With Superman at my side, nothing can stop me. Superman's eyes glowed bright red, his fists clenched, but there was something more, something flickering behind those crimson eyes. For a split second, there was a flash of the Kal-El they knew, the flicker of the hero who fought for justice. Superman! Captain America shouted, stepping forward, his voice strong but filled with urgency. You don't have to do this. Fight him. Fight the control. For a moment, there was silence. Superman's gaze locked with Steve Rogers, a battle raging within him. His body was trembling, struggling against Luthor's power. But just as quickly, the dark energy surged again, and Superman's expression hardened. Get out of my way, Rogers. Superman's voice was a low growl. His eyes, now fully red, fixed on the Avengers. You failed. Before anyone could react, Superman moved like lightning, slamming Captain America into the ground with a force that cracked the pavement. Iron Man was quick to fire a blast from his suit, but Superman dodged it with ease, his movements blindingly fast. Tony, take him down. Captain America shouted as he recovered, his shield glowing with energy. Iron Man's suit buzzed, his targeting systems locking onto Superman. I've got something in mind, but it's risky. I need everyone to keep him distracted. Thor swung Mjolnir at Superman, but the Kryptonian dodged, his eyes glowing with heat vision. A pulse of red energy shot out, and Thor barely managed to raise Mjolnir in time to block the attack, the force of it sending him flying back. Black Widow and Hawkeye launched their own coordinated assault, arrows and gadgets aimed at distracting Superman. But each attack seemed futile. It was like fighting an unstoppable force. Luthor stood off to the side, watching the battle unfold with an almost bored expression. You think you can defeat him? You are wasting your time. Superman belongs to me now. But just as things seemed hopeless, a sharp voice rang out. We'll see about that. It was Natasha Romanoff, Black Widow, who had picked up on something they hadn't seen before. We've been attacking him wrong, she said, her eyes focused on the faint flicker in Superman's eyes. We're not fighting Superman. We're fighting the Control. We need to isolate him from whatever's manipulating him. Iron Man's eyes lit up. Wait, she's right. If I can hack into Luthor's tech, we might be able to disrupt the neural link he's using to control Superman. But I'll need a distraction. Captain America nodded. Thor, Widow, you're with me. Tony, you do your thing. The rest of you, keep Luthor busy. Without another word, the Avengers launched into action. Thor and Captain America attacked from the front, keeping Superman occupied with quick strikes, while Iron Man activated his suit's EMP function. The air crackled as the battle raged on, the world around them falling into disarray. Iron Man's hands flew across his console, bypassing firewalls, breaking through Luthor's defenses. The tension was unbearable. Every second felt like an eternity. The fate of the world rested on his ability to crack the code, to sever the connection between Superman and Luthor. Luthor snarled, "You think you can win? This world will kneel before me." But suddenly, there was a shift. Superman's movement slowed, his eyes blinking rapidly as the red glow began to fade. For a moment, it was like the storm inside him had calmed. His face softened, the darkness lifting from his expression. Kal-El. Captain America shouted, rushing to his side. Fight it. You can still break free. Superman's gaze flickered between Captain America and Luthor, his body trembling with effort. The light in his eyes faltered, then burned brightly again. I can't. Superman's voice was strained, a battle raging in his chest. He has control. Don't listen to him. Iron Man yelled, stepping forward, the final command inputting in his system. I've got the override. Just hold on, Kal-El. Suddenly, a powerful surge of energy shot through Superman's body, and he staggered back, his fists tightening. The neural control system was failing. The connection was being severed. No. Luthor screamed, his face twisted in rage. You are mine. But it was too late. With a roar, Superman broke free of Luthor's influence, his eyes flashing once more with their familiar blue glow. He turned to face Luthor, his strength fully returned. No, Luthor. This ends now. In one motion, Superman slammed Luthor into the ground, pinning him with a strength that even the armored villain couldn't escape. The fight had been won, but the cost had been immense. Superman collapsed to his knees, exhaustion weighing down on him. The Avengers gathered around him, cautiously, but with relief in their eyes. You did it, Captain America said, his voice full of respect. Superman looked up at them, a weary smile on his face. I'm sorry. I never wanted to be part of this. But Luthor, he used me. You're not alone, Kal-El, Tony Stark added, placing a hand on his shoulder. We've got your back. But deep down, the Avengers knew this was only the beginning. Luthor had been defeated, but his plan had only shown how vulnerable even the greatest heroes could be. They had just witnessed the most dangerous weapon on Earth, and now, they had to wonder, was Superman truly safe from the control of darker forces? The aftermath. The dust had barely settled in Metropolis when the Avengers stood together, watching the wreckage left in the wake of their battle. Superman, his shoulders slumped with exhaustion, had just freed himself from Luthor's control, but the toll was visible. You're safe now, Captain America said, his voice steady but filled with relief. Superman looked up at them, gratitude flickering in his eyes, but it was clear he was still haunted by the aftermath. Luthor almost destroyed me, he said, his voice low, and he almost destroyed everything I stood for. Iron Man, wiping debris from his suit, spoke up. We'll rebuild. together. But in the silence that followed, something ominous lingered in the air. Luthor had been defeated, but this wasn't the last time they'd face an enemy with the power to control even their greatest hero. The Avengers had won the battle, but the war was far from over. And now, with Superman back by their side, they would face a new threat, one that could test the limits of trust, loyalty, and power. The real fight for Earth's survival had only just begun,